If you've been following the show, you're aware that one of the counties that lately has been pushing one of these ordinances to give their county health department the ability to go in and take action to shut down businesses and so on is Sheboygan County. The county administrator there, whose name is Payne, is saying, look, we only want to have this authority if the COVID thing really blows up. We know it's not been bad in Sheboygan. We don't intend to use this now. We just want to be able to take emergency action if we get to a point where our health system is overrun. Now, as you know, I have opposed all of these ordinances. I do not believe it should be the role of government to shut down businesses because of health situations. I believe that if there's a health problem going on, that people can make good enough judgments for themselves. Some people will hide in the basement for weeks on their own choice, and other people won't change their behavior at all. And we've managed to work our way through far more contagious and deadly diseases than this one. With that reality, including polio, smallpox, some of the worst plagues that you could imagine they've run through the United States in the past. And we figured out how to deal with them without giving some bureaucrat sitting in a county courthouse the ability to ruin people's lives by shutting down their businesses and taking away their income. But whether you agree with that extreme position of mine or not, that there shouldn't be these county health departments and no one should issue an order or not, in Sheboygan County, they're saying, look, our ordinance has all sorts of checks and balances, and we're only going to use it in an extreme type of situation. People don't trust this. The reason they don't trust it is they have seen what has happened so far in other parts of the state and in other parts of the country with some of these orders in place because of COVID. They've seen, for example, they won't let anybody, public or private, open school in Madison, despite the fact that Madison's numbers are extremely low for COVID. And they realize that this is done by the same type of health official that they have in the other counties. Now, the people of Sheboygan will say, well, but that's Madison. That's not us. Our people are reasonable. Are they? This brings me to a story. I keep saying you think you've seen it all. I don't know if I've heard of this before. But it's the sort of thing that's going on right now with some of these pissants that are involved in government. Now, everything about this story is weird, including the fact that the people involved have the same last name, but they're not related. It's spelled differently, but this is going to make the story a little bit hard for me to deal with you, so you got to work with me on this. A lady decided to write to members of the Sheboygan County Board about her opposition to the county health ordinance. You know, people write in support and opposition to these kinds of things all the time. As I've mentioned, liberals riot, conservatives send emails. The lady sent an email. I'm holding it in front of me. It's not real long, but it's long enough. It's well written. She explains why she doesn't support the ordinance in Sheboygan County. Her name is Kathleen Goehring. And she sent the email to members of the Sheboygan County Board, including Supervisor William Goehring. Now, again, it's just a coincidence these people have the same last name. They're pronounced almost the same. One is spelled with an O, the other one is spelled with an E. So the letter writer who's opposed to the ordinance is named Kathleen Goehring, and she sends a thing to her supervisor named William Goehring. I'm assured by all involved they're not related. In fact, they don't even know each other. So William Goehring is a member of the Sheboygan County Board. He represents the Random Lake area on the county board. He gets this letter from a constituent, Kathleen, opposing the health ordinance. What he did boggles the mind. The county board member who got the letter from this lady contacts the lady's husband's boss. Mrs. Goehring's husband is an anesthesiologist. That's a physician. They're the one, you know what they do. They put the mask over your face and all that stuff. He's an anesthesiologist with Aurora. The supervisor, William Goehring, calls the guy who's the head of, contacts the guy who's the head of the Aurora Sheboygan Hospital. Remember now, the doctor who works at the hospital, he didn't write the email. His wife did. To use this as an example, this would be like if Dave Michaels' wife wrote a letter to some politician, and the politician contacted Colleen, our general manager here at iHeart, over not what Dave did, but what his wife did. I've never heard of this. I mean, I've heard of if somebody made terrible threats, you tell the police or something, but nothing like this. William Goehring contacted Dave Gravener, who runs the Aurora Sheboygan Hospital. This is what he wrote. Mr. Gravener, as a longtime Sheboygan County supervisor and someone who worked in the healthcare field for the Department of Health Services for the last 8 years of my professional career, I was disappointed to receive the attached email from the spouse of an Aurora doctor. While I agree that I cannot and do not control the opinions of my spouse, I trust you have made all employees of the Aurora family aware of how Sheboygan County is working in partnership with the hospitals in Sheboygan County in an attempt to assure the healthcare systems are not overrun with COVID patients in the future. It is also my understanding that Advocate Aurora and the St. Nicholas Previa are in agreement with the intent of Ordinance Number 3. Thank you for reading my emails and hearing of my concerns. So this county board member, William Goehring, rats out a doctor at Aurora because his wife wrote an email. I'm telling you, this stuff with regard to, if you're right of center, you can't talk anymore. And by the way, I've read the lady's email. It's a polite, she has her reasons. Maybe you support the health ordinance, maybe you're against it. First of all, she's a doctor's wife, and she's, from what I could tell, she's, I believe, in her 60s. She's not like some, you're dirty, it's none of that. It's politely written. This supervisor, Goehring, this goof from Random Lake, contacts the head of Aurora, bitching about the fact, you got a doctor whose wife objects to this. How dare, I'm a healthcare professional, I know. So God forbid that any residents of Sheboygan County could offer any kind of input here, not to at least old man Goehring, the member of the county board. He knows. He worked at DHS. Oh, wow. It's the same crap you get from teachers. The reason why it's hard for many of us to trust these health agencies that they won't overstep their authority. Look at this. You got a county board member who's going to the boss of somebody because he got a letter. I wouldn't trust any of those people. How in the world can you trust that a guy like William Goehring would not overstep his authority when he's ratting people out to their boss over an email that the spouse sent about an ordinance? That is a buffoon who is power hungry, who's out there. He was trying to get this doctor in trouble with his boss. Why else did you write the boss? Hey, I understand and maybe Aurora does support the ordinance. Why does that mean that the wife of somebody... That would be like Dave Michaels' wife is not allowed to disagree with the position I just took on this show because Dave Michaels is on my show today, and therefore, the idea that... I would jokingly perhaps make a point of that, to write the boss. There's a kicker to this story. And it shows what a dope William Goehring is. The doctor doesn't even work at Aurora anymore. He's retired. The doctor is the one that contacted me, and he said, look what the guy tried to do to me. He said, no, I'm retired. But he said probably, if you go on to some of these hospital sites, doctors' names might still be on there. So he said, and probably she got the other Goehring, the supervisor Goehring, gets the email, goes and checks her up, sees the doctor's name on the Aurora site, probably thinks that he's still okay, I'm going to go after him. Yeah, did a Google search and that was the end of it. Now, I reached out to the supervisor, William Goehring, and he has not gotten back to me. This is repugnant behavior by a public official. It's the kind of behavior that ought to be sanctioned by the Sheboygan County Board. People have a right to disagree with you, Goehring. And you have a right to respond, ignore, do whatever you want, and the voters can decide if they want to have a goof like you on their county board or not. If this were something in which the woman said terribly racist things or threatened employees of the agency or none of that. She's just one of many people in Sheboygan County. And by the way, I agree with her. I think these ordinances are a bad idea. And hey, old man Goehring, you don't have to go contact my boss. I think she probably is aware of what my position is since I shoot my big mouth out here on the radio. Going after a guy because he's going after, I don't even know who he was most trying to get in trouble. What's it? First of all, let's imagine the other Goehring, Dr. Goehring, the doctor from Aurora. Maybe he even agrees with the ordinance. There are cases in which people in a marriage disagree. What's he supposed to do? Go chop his wife's hands off? Take away her computer access? Those of you in Random Lake, you're represented by a buffoon. And a mean-spirited one. And you wonder why we doubt whether or not you can trust government to show proper discretion when you've got some dink on the county board who can't even stop himself from trying to get a doctor who served his community for decades in trouble because his wife sent you an email that you disagree with? I'm telling you, these lefties are full of themselves right now. The Dr. Goehring who contacted me said he can't believe that the supervisor Goehring is trying to intimidate him and abusing his authority as an elected official. And the doctor points out, I've never contacted him anyway. He said even though our names sound alike, he's never met the guy at all and doesn't know him. And his wife just sent the email because she's concerned about the issue and she's contacting all the... I'm telling you, all these years, it's possible we had a case like this that I've talked about in the past where a public official went after somebody's spouse because but usually it's like when Hillary was running for president, I'd rip Bill Clinton. This is just a citizen whose husband is a doctor and then to contact the hospital saying, I can't believe you got a doctor whose wife is against this. What are you going to do about it? My goodness. Now, I don't expect anybody in the Sheboygan media is going to do anything about this. Dave asked, what Sheboygan media? Well, whatever one there is. They got a radio station up there that does some stories every now and then. What? Well, they had a story not long ago. I forget what it was. It was about this health ordinance, I think. So if nobody else finds out about it, at least I know about it. There are going to be people who want me to post this. I got to think about this because this woman as it is has gotten it. I don't need her to be involved in. You just need to know that the supervisor involved is named William Goehring, and it's spelled Goehring or Goehring. It's spelled Goehrin. Gee, and those of you that are objecting to this health ordinance up there, you better let your spouses know because old Goehring's going to contact your spouse's boss and see if you can't get people fired over this. News Talk 1130 WISN, Mark Belling, late afternoon show. If you want a little sports talk.